Hey guys, Rainbow Plasma here, throwing in a quick before the episode update. I am in the middle of a 48-hour migraine, and I hoped that it would clear before I had to edit, but unfortunately it didn't. So this week it will be light on editing. I apologize if there's any background noises or extra bits in there that it normally wouldn't have. I usually try to stay on top of that stuff, but this week it's just not possible with my current state of how my brain's feeling. So I hope you guys enjoy anyways. It was a really fun episode to record, and I'm sure it'll be a fun episode to watch. But we'll be back next week with the regular standard of editing. Just thought I'd let you guys know ahead of time. So enjoy. Hello and welcome to the Cutie Art Crusaders, episode 93 for April 15th, 2014. My name is Rainbow Plasma, I'm the organizer and this week's editor, and today I'm joined by...
Brony, the special guest coordinator and stuff.
I'm PhotoGuy317, and I am the media manager for the podcast.
I'm Atmospark, and I do the questions in the DeviantArt page, and sometimes the emails, and etc.
So, one thing that's very important, only to me, is the fact that it's episode 93, and that's my birth year. So, woo!
Yay, happy birth year.
3-second celebration for that. Awesome.
Yay.
Happy birthday-related episode number.
Well, it's funny because we completely missed like 89 and 91, so just skip
we
right
did.
over that.
Hey.
Yeah. It's because you care about less trivial number things, but
We have
I
to
think
go
it's
back.
funny. Yeah. Anyways, this episode's gonna go kind of quick. We're not gonna talk about much here at the beginning, so strap yourselves in, folks, because we're on one heck of a rocket ride. Why is that, Bernd? Tell me. Inform me. Put words in my ears.
Because this week we have super fantastic special time stuff and junk and art. And we have
Super happy,
lots of
fucky,
it,
fun time.
right?
I'm glad I decided to defer to you.
There's two words that we're looking for here, Bernd.
Yeah.
One starts with a C, and one starts with a B.
I'm gonna have to edit that in, aren't I? Darn it.
Coconut
Darn
bottles.
it. We're gonna have to edit in the crab battle!
Oh, is that what it was? I was thinking cuddle something.
No. Cuddle butts.
Cuddle bros.
Yep. Cuddle butts.
Bros.
Yeah.
Can we call that stuff cuddle bros?
No.
No.
Absolutely not.
All right, so we do have to get kind of going on this episode because we have a lot of art that we want to feature, and
We haven't described it. What is it? What are we doing? Nobody has any idea what you're talking about.
all right. So, Bernd, if you want to go really quickly through what this is.
Well, this week is our part 3 of Crab Battle.
Crab Battles!
This is our third consecutive Crab Battle episode that we've done on the show. And this episode in particular, we asked you, the viewers, to send us in Crab Battle artwork. And now this episode has finally come. And we have a lot of really awesome and super awesome Crab Battle artwork that you guys have made and sent in. And that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about it.
Yeah.
So it's from you guys, by the people, for the people. Both awesome and super awesome, apparently.
Yes. All the above.
I run out of adjectives sometimes.
Sometimes.
Okay. So we got sent in 26 amazing pieces of Crab Battle art, which is phenomenal, and you guys are super awesome for that.
God damn it, guys.
Thank you.
Adjectives. I'm going to buy you all a thesaurus.
Cool.
What's a thesaurus? Have you got another word for it?
Don't let me derail you. Please go on.
Anyhow, so what we thought we would do is kind of split this up. For the normal episode, we're going to show five pieces. We're going to showcase those pieces like we would in a normal episode of the fan art that you guys sent in, or the Crab Battle art that you guys sent in. And then we're going to do our questions, kind of wrap up the episode. And then afterwards, because there's no pony this week, we thought we would do a 20-minute segment where we showed 4 more pieces, and we just kind of talked briefly about those as well.
Kind of like an honorable mention section.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to show 9 pieces today, but really thank you guys all for sending in the pieces because they are fantastic, and you guys are fantastic.
And if you guys are curious to see all of those super awesome crab battle pieces, the link to our crab battle folder will be in the description of this YouTube video.
Yep.
So you can go down there to see all of the crazy stuff that we got. There's a lot of it. I believe we got almost 30 pieces. So
26.
26.
So,
okay,
speaking
of
these 26.
without further ado, we're going to go on to our first piece, which is called Rarity Crab Smash by Otaku AP, who is an amazing, amazing fan artist. And we've featured quite a bit because he features us quite a bit in his art.
But
Of
also
course,
regular artist, not just fan artist.
Yeah.
For sure. So when we were looking at some of these pieces, when we were deciding what kind of came out, overall, we tried to pick what we considered were overall the best pieces to try and feature because, it was supposed to be something similar to a regular episode, except the difference is you guys sent in the suggestions and we picked from those. And so part of it was also looking at some interesting things that happened to come up, and creativity was a really common theme, where a lot of people took the idea of crab battle and kind of put their own spin on it, which is something that was really unexpected, but I really enjoyed about what people have sent in. And I think Otaku AP kind of epitomizes that sense of taking the idea of crab battle as like a sentence and turning it on its head, you know? Because all the crab battles that we've shown so far, they were all creative in their own ways, but a lot of them were similar in their own ways as well. Whereas this is completely out there, right?
Yeah.
CCB 2014.
In this corner, wearing the blue, Rarity, etc., etc. We've seen a lot of like crab battle pieces where Rarity is wielding a weapon, or she's got like boxing gloves on or whatever. But like in this, like she is the weapon, and she's
Rarity
body
is the
slamming a
weapon.
crab. Yeah,
The people's elbow.
it's a different kind of battle, It's not quite some sort of epic scenery showdown. It's more like their own version of the battle.
Yeah.
Mucho libre la crab de.
Yeah.
The crab.
Do you guys
that was
think?
almost Spanish. It's probably as good as my Spanish is, to be honest, though.
Yeah. Do you guys think this is staged? Like
No.
no.
Flutter guy, what are you talking about?
Please.
What am I insinuating?
Next thing
He's real.
Next
Yeah.
thing you'll tell me is that the Easter Bunny isn't real.
No.
It is real. That's
Speaking
how
of
we get,
Easter
eggs.
Bunny,
we get the eggs from the bunny. Because bunnies
Speaking
lay
of
eggs.
Easter Bunny, there's a moth in this picture,
There is a moth.
which has nothing to do with Easter bunnies, but yeah.
That's just
Anyways.
Otaku's thing. He puts a moth in his things.
Yep.
Yeah.
Everything to do with
That's
them.
just his thing. I like Sweetie Belle too.
Yes. Sweetie Belle's
Yeah.
adorable.
Yeah, I think something that should be noted about this piece is the interesting choice of a background, because there is none really when you consider it. When you look at like what actually is the background, it's colored, transparent circles and flashes of lights. But I think that that's a really interesting thing to do because I don't think it necessarily takes away from the piece, because what it's supposed to showcase is kind of people's camera flashes or people's, I guess nowadays, phones in the crowd giving off light without actually having to draw every single person in the crowd.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I
I mean,
mean,
really
even
good.
when you actually look at the background, it still looks like it's a crowd of people, and it's it's circles, and you can focus on it, and it still looks like a crowd.
But it's like it's tricking you into believing that there are things there, even though there are no things there. Nothing. There's
Yeah.
circles. That's it.
Well, that goes back to the whole exposure thing, because if you've ever been on stage with like bright lights shining on your face, you have all this lighting close to you, and sometimes it's very difficult to see the audience because it's very dark and you're very bright. So there's that kind of contrast. And in this piece, obviously the ring is very bright and it's illuminated with all these spotlights that you can see, like these big X's. So theoretically you wouldn't see the crowd in this piece because they would be so dark, but you would see like the camera flashes or maybe even like lighters and stuff. It's not really a concert, but
But yeah, we get your point.
I don't
It
know.
also
A lot
adds-
of pyromaniacs might go to a wrestling show.
It also adds a feeling of focus as well. It's like focus of the camera, like the fact that there's those transparent circles like overlapping is something that happens when you have an out of focus camera. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When a light source is not focused on, it will create that radial blend. I don't know what it is. Thingy.
Something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, no, but
Gaussian
you're
blend.
right.
Yeah.
It shows stuff being out of focus without having to blur. I mean, some of them are blurred, but it's not necessary, you know? Like previously, if you would have been thinking about putting something out of focus, you'd blur it, you know? But that's not necessarily the be all end all.
No, see, that's why I wasn't trying to say that, because when you have like an actual bright like light source thingy, and when your camera's out of focus, it becomes a perfect circle that doesn't have like soft edges. It has like the perfectly round circle edges, like this. Like this is it's some kind of camera effecty thing that I don't have the fancy name for. But it does that.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but I have no idea what it's called.
Radial
but yeah,
fancy lens glare thing. That's what we're going with.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Yeah, I mean, if you've ever taken a picture kind of looking towards the sun, but kind of out of focus, you'll usually get these dots of light, and that's kind of what's happening here too.
Well, he uses it really well.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about Rarity in this piece because her outfit is just fantastic. She's wearing like this mask, like which is really elaborate and all like golden and stuff, and that expression on her face too is like just so good. She's like, I'm gonna smash you.
Yeah.
I think
the
Otaku
golden
AP's always been really good at that. His expressions and making them look natural while still cartoony.
Yeah.
Believable, maybe. It's a good one.
Yeah. And are these costumes based on anything?
Not that I can think of. I'm not, full disclosure, not wrestling fan at all. I'm not at all.
This looks like
anything to do with it.
sort of,
Yeah.
I don't know what like Mexican wrestling? Like Nacho Libre?
Yeah,
that's
what it's playing off of. That's why I was cracking the joke earlier, like the Mucha Libre crab, because they look like luchadors or whatever you call them.
Lucha Libre, isn't it?
Lucha Libre, I don't know.
Nacho Libre.
But yeah, like Spanish wrestling, blah blah blah, whatever you want.
Yeah.
to call it.
Yeah, that's what they're going
That's
off
what the
of,
costumes are based.
But
on.
I don't know if there's
it's
anything
definitely
specific.
not WWE.
Yeah, no.
We're just
No,
saying that
yeah,
because Rink and
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, do wrestling matches normally have the big like jumbotron?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Again, not a fan. Never been. Never watched.
WWE matches do. Yeah, they're in the
Yeah,
big
I
ring
just
like that
consider like I associate those more with like sports and stuff like NBA.
because they're usually
NHL
in
kind of
sports stadiums. So
Right.
but now it's
thing. Oh, okay, that makes sense then.
Well, that's how they started, but now they actually have their own stadiums. But
Now they got their own sort of thing.
anyway,
Yeah. Plus,
But maybe
I mean,
they picked
like,
up that tradition from there, right?
yes, they did.
yeah. But plus, like, you know, if you're at the arena and watching, if you're in like the nosebleed section, you're not gonna be able to see anything. So, I'm sure they put it up on the jumbotron.
Makes sense.
Ooh,
It makes
something I wanted to mention about this one is that she's like doing her special move, right? She's like, bro, the people's elbow. But you notice that the crab is actually flopped over and turned upside down so she can do massive damage.
Yeah.
Super effective
I'm
attack.
I'm kind of I mean, the crab's not wearing a costume, so that's unless his whole body is a costume.
He's wearing. What are you talking about?
What, the green is a costume?
Yeah.
Maybe it is. Yeah.
Yeah, the green's a costume.
Oh, I totally didn't notice that.
Yeah, the green's a costume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Don't you
fantastic
know
piece.
spandex when you
Otaku.
see it? God.
Fantastic piece, Otaku. Really creative and really well done. So thank you again for doing that. We're going to move on to our next piece, which is called Put It Back, CAC Crab Battle by Late Customer, who is a big fan of
We know this guy.
Yeah.
Dave.
Hi, Dave.
Dave.
So this is a piece featuring a giant crab who had elastics over his claws but broke out of them, and it features us and Late Customers OC and Otaku AP's OC, because the two of them have been kind of in this like art battle, not really battle.
No. Crab battle.
No, I See, I know this might be a bit far-fetched, but I think that they're courting each other.
I think that's the technical term.
Yeah.
I think we've mentioned this before, but there needs to be much more Otaku X late customer in the world.
Yeah.
But anyways, the scene is, I guess, for whatever reason, Mr. Otaku AP Pony has grabbed a crab out of the ocean, and somebody's not very happy about that.
Mm.
So
But when they're in the ocean, why do they have bands on their claws? I don't understand.
I have no idea. Why are we all bandaged? There's a bigger story here somewhere.
Yeah.
And like we all have bandages, like we're hurt, and then so
like-
does the crab. The crab's wearing has a bandage. Like
I love how it's got
So
the
much
band-aid on it, because obviously somebody hurt the crab and then they took the time to patch it up. Because I don't imagine the crab could put that band-aid on with a giant claws like that.
Yeah. Even the little crab has a band-aid on it.
Yeah. Maybe we were walking across this big like river or lake or whatever, and it was like a giant rock in the middle, and we used it to walk across, and we didn't know it, but it was the crab's back, and like someone stepped on it wrong, and Flutter Guy, of course, out of all of us, would be the only person who cares, and so he would put the Band-Aid on it, and then Otaku would look over and be like, "Oh look, crab! I'm gonna take this with me," and then we encounter this scenario here.
Yeah. Please, late customer, tell us if we're way off target here.
Yeah, I probably put way too much thought into that, but
Yeah.
I feel like there also could have been like a crab battle that already happened where he fought the big crab or something, and I don't know. I mean, it has a band-aid. Why does everything have band-aids? Like it's like there was a battle that already happened, and then Otaku took the little crab, and then it made the big crab angry again. It's like re-crab battle part 3.
Oh my god. Yes. I think
maybe it's just like Dragon Ball Z where they always have bandages for one reason or another.
Yeah.
No, I think Burns onto something. I think like we battled the big crab and we like put the bands on its claws, and then like Otaku took the little crab as a souvenir, and like the big crab got mucho angry and yeah.
I enjoy all of our expressions in this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They kind of
Burns
kind of
freaking out.
match a real life scenario.
My favorite expression is Ted's.
Yeah.
'Cause, one, he's freaking adorable, and like all the
Always.
little fuzzy bits are like absolutely perfect. And then there's his face. He's looking at me like, "Wait, don't judge me, man. I'm emotional." It's just like, what? Like,
Yeah.
huh?
I'm not gonna lie, I am pretty cute in this piece.
You're cute in everything. I don't know what it is about your pony. It's always adorable.
It's the
Because
colors.
it's made to be that way. Because
Yeah.
you have to realize that when people make fan pieces, they're unconsciously influenced by our personalities. And so a lot of the times they can put those emotions into each of the characters. You see it all the
I
time.
like that's why
What you
mine's
trying to
always
say?
like the crazy character.
I didn't actually put two and two together with you, Bryn,
What
but
you trying to say?
you said you're emotional. It's what you said. Yeah. I'll go with whatever you said.
All right.
I love the emotion lines in Burns' expression. It's very anime-esque.
Yeah. I like the fact that Late Customer has kind of started taking his work to the next level. I think it's easy sometimes to look at cartoonists, quote unquote, or people who focus on doing more of a cartoony style and think that they're going to be complacent about something, but he is actively working towards improving his art at every step, you know? Not kind of he's always trying to push forward with it and take his stuff to the next level when, you know, he's got a perfectly good, I've made it to a certain extent. No, he's not happy with that. He's still improving, and he still thinks that there's details to be done. And I think that shows not only the characters that have a lot more detail than we've seen in the past, but also in the crab itself. Very, very well done with all of the different colors put onto it.
Mm-hmm.
I
love
do
the
like his style.
contrast.
I actually commissioned him recently.
That's just
I-
qualities of a good artist too, to like keep wanting to push yourself forwards and keep improving. Like he's even been coming to me and asking me like tips about things or like who he should like ask for information or blah blah blah. And I don't know, like
Yeah.
every other moment he has, he's always trying to like look and improve and take that next step, you know?
Mm.
But sometimes you encounter some people who kind of hit that point and they kind of like are complacent about it, and it's nice to see I think a lot of times, especially sometimes it's not just a complacency factor. Sometimes it's just like I have to make a comic strip, or I have to make a certain amount of art pieces per day, and it's productive for me to just make those art pieces. It's only viable for me to make those kind of art pieces. But I think Dave still kind of puts in that extra effort, and he still has a passion for being better.
I love the contrasting style between the big crab and the little crab, because the little crab is very, very cartoony.
Yeah.
And the big crab is very detailed.
Yeah, he's one color. He's got googly eyes, whereas the crab has got tons more detail. At least 4 or 5 different colors in there splotched around.
Yeah.
I'm also a fan of these mouth pincher things of the crab. This almost like crab-like mustache, crab stash, if you will.
Yeah,
it's pretty good.
Well, it's good crab anatomy.
It's true.
Look at those eyes. They're so beady. So angry.
Those beady eyes. I'd be interested in kind of assessing, because I'm not a crab biologist. I don't know the specific types of crabs, but I imagine there's a good 6 or 7 types that we featured. So I'd love to be able to actually know which, like when we look at one of these crab battle pieces, what kind of crab are we looking at? Is it an actual one, or is it like a
crab.
hybrid?
Yeah.
Of course, the onion of crabs, and we need them.
The onion of crabs.
Don't worry about it.
Crabs have layers?
We need some kind of seologist, marine
Marine
biologist.
biologist.
Yeah.
So like a
Geologist.
unicorn for
If you're
for
studying marine biologist who's also happens to be watching our show, or if you have one who's a friend, make him watch our show a bunch.
Yeah.
And then get back to it.
I don't know why, but whenever I think of marine biologist, I think of like otters and seals and whales and dolphins. I don't usually think of crabs, but I guess it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's like a crustaceanologist or something.
Crustaceanologist.
I like to call them crabologists. That's the technical term.
The study
Are
of
there also
crabology.
are there also recrabologists? Or
Oh boy.
Crab
battle!
Hey! One last thing about this piece before we move on. I love Lake Customer's line work and how he kind of uses varying line thicknesses and stuff, especially like on the text bubble in this piece, because it really makes it pop out. And
Yeah.
and
Text
also
bubble is
like
a great touch.
yeah, just like the whole outlining of stuff is really well done. All right, so we're gonna move on to our next piece, which is called The Crab Battle by Anticular Pony.
Who we have title there, bud.
Yeah. We've never
just
featured
giving
Anticular Pony before, but this is a really, really fantastic piece. I love the messy medium in this, and that crab is just so menacing.
I mean, you guys know me. I enjoy reaching out a little bit and reaching new artists who perhaps haven't made it onto our show before. And no better way to do that than on an episode where we have fans sending in stuff. And the submissions that were sent in this time were no different from before, where we get a bunch of submissions from people that we've never heard from before or never seen that were fan of our show. So obviously we're still making new fans, which is nice. But yeah, Anticular Pony has a really interesting piece here, and I think it starts. Our first 2 pieces were kind of goofy, and I think with this one it starts getting down into the more serious tones of our pieces.
Yeah.
This is where we flip the switch, go into a different gear, if you will.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it starts to become a lot darker, especially like in the colors used. You get more of these muted browns and like the very dark kind of value that's used. And really the only bright part of this piece is kind of Rarity's cape and maybe her hair. But everything else is kind of really subdued. I shouldn't say bright, I should say saturated, because
There we go. I was like,
yeah.
you got it. You got there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because there is a lot of brights in this piece. For example, in the lighting, which is interesting because with lighting, you can kind of either make like a false sense of lighting, like an implied light. It's somewhere in the piece, just fine. It's coming in from outside the borders, or you can have a very definitive light that's within the actual scene itself. And in this case, there's a big light in the center, and that's kind of like the only light in the entire piece is coming from the tip of Rarity's horn, but everything else is darkness.
Mm-hmm.
It's like she's in a cave.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or in a rock pool, if you will.
or something like that, where it's completely dark. It would be completely dark except for Rarity's horn. It reminds me of situations where characters in like a movie will go into a really dark cave and then they'll light up their whatever, like whether it be a torch
or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden there's like this giant thing, or they'll light up something and it'll be like really small. Like what was that thing in Finding Nemo where they found this really like it was like a really small like light, and it was like, oh, that's so pretty, and then it actually lights up, and it's this horrible, horrible fish.
The
big
super
anglerfish.
deep sea anglerfish.
Yeah. And something similar here.
He did touch the button, yes.
Something similar here, I guess.
Yeah. I really like the way that the lighting is done in this piece, because you get this kind of strip lighting right in the middle that's kind of emanating from Rarity's horn, which almost is kind of like a lens flare, but not really. I don't know. It's a different type of lighting that I haven't seen too often in pieces, and it's kind of interesting, and it's kind of neat to see that. And then you get like that main lighting source, and then the other lighting source, or it could just be reflections, is the crab's eyes, which is really well done and really ominous. So, and then of course you get all the reflections off of like the claws and the ground, and then you have all this kind of fog and mist, this atmospheric, not really perspective, but just atmosphere surrounding the whole scene.
It's obviously very dusty, almost, you know? The caves are probably dusty places. Haven't been in too many, but generally speaking, they're probably dusty.
Well, I mean, you could also say that it's misty. I mean, it could also be precipitation or whatever you want to call it, because, I mean, if it is a crab, because in all fairness, this could be like a land crab, so it could be dust, but it could also be a sea crab, and it could be like that kind of mist. I kind of get that effect, where it's almost like, you know, water and mist, like in front of the crab and below it and stuff, because it could be like a sea cave.
Again, this is why we need marine biologists on the show.
Yeah.
One specifically for identification of crabs.
Marine biology aside, though, it is a good layout for like the scene for this piece and tone, like with all the color given around everything being very muted, as Flutter Guy pointed out, and then this kind of like mist over everything. It does give this kind of almost suspenseful feeling in it.
Yeah.
I also like how this mist or fog or smoke or whatever it is kind of framing the scene. So it's kind of wrapping around the bottom of the piece, and kind of you got these two pillars on the side, so it's kind of pulling the scene together, and really driving your focus into the middle of the piece.
That's true.
I think.
Yeah.
Well, that's also
I may just be spewing words, but
No,
it's also where the big light source is, like right in the center.
yeah.
What a strange thing that we're featuring for the third week out of
So
Can we just, I think I just was sitting here and I was like, just trying to think of the scenario that this was happening. I was like, this is really strange.
how did we get here?
93 episodes in, how do we,
What do we come to?
strange. I like it though, it's still good art.
Yeah.
I think my favorite part about this piece and why I really enjoy it is that crab face, though, is that just that looming, like, I don't know, something about it. It's just great.
Well, it's interesting because like normally when we're talking about a piece, we like to say that, you know, the things that are out of focus are your less detailed parts, and the things that are in focus should be more detailed and whatnot. But the crab is kind of one of the focal points of the piece, and it's still like very messy and very non-detailed. But I think that gives it kind of a more significant presence in the piece, almost, in that like it doesn't have to be detailed to show that it's like menacing and there and like, you know.
Yeah. And I mean, when you think about it too, it's also the way that lighting kind of works. It wouldn't perfectly show the crab. There'd be kind of details left out where shadows lie across the crab's face.
Yeah.
So
Is what?
just based on the fact that there's one point light source in this piece, it would kind of give off that sense of not perfect detail, because it's not enough light to give off perfect detail.
Yeah.
Even what it like what light would or wouldn't do, just how it looks in particular as like a artistic choice. I think, as like Futterguy was pointing out, is it ends up lending itself to this tone that it creates rather well.
Yeah.
Stuff in my throat. But no, I think those are both good points, but I'd caution you to be like, or say something like, if there was a single point light source and it's casting shadows, it would. No, I guess that's a good point too, because it totally would cast shadows and make things more ominous. But what I'm trying to point out is that the artist's choice to make a dramatic light source and have it painted in a way that makes it look like it's casting shadows dramatically gives it a very specific feeling that I really enjoy in this piece. And then the super like really messy texturized brushstrokes give this, I guess, style a very unique feeling that I don't hate. I enjoy it. So
Yeah, I
that's
think
what I'm trying to get at. Just
I think
horribly
what I was
worded.
getting at with the camera focus and how the lighting worked was it was just when we talk about the fact that things that you should be focusing on should be in focus, this kind of quote unquote breaks that rule in a way. But in my head, it doesn't. That's not a big deal, because I could feasibly come up with an explanation for it. Yeah, and a lot of times in these pieces, you don't have to come up with the best explanation, but as long as you can come up with something that makes sense generally, and it shouldn't. There's nothing glaring about this piece that says what he did doesn't make sense in a real world environment. I think there's a lot of things in here that make a lot of sense to me. That the lack of detail makes sense to me.
Yeah.
It doesn't take anything away from it.
It was for some reason, there's a little switch flipped in my head, was like something about the wording of how an artist did something and then it looks really like believable, or you could kind of believe it, and it's somehow how you worded it, and that there was like this light source and it's casting, almost giving it like a reason for him to be able to do it, or like an excuse almost.
Yeah.
I don't know, something flipped there where it's like a lot of times in art, it's not about whether it could or couldn't be feasible. It's that it just is, and it looks the specific way, but what does that do, or how does that look? And what kind of like emotions, response, or whatever do you see when you look at that?
That's a good point. That's a really good point. And so I guess my explanation would be better said if I described it as, look, it also does this, as opposed to this is the reason why. Because I don't think it's the reason why. I think it's just it's also interesting because it is totally a realistic scenario, and it kind of has that sense to it. Like, this is a real thing that's happening, and it makes it more menacing to me, I guess, because it's more realistic, and you can maybe envision yourself there.
It's funny because a switch that my teacher had implanted, one of my art teachers, totally flipped in my head, to where a lot of times students will word things that they see in a specific way and try to give like an excuse for something, or like, oh, like this, I could see this happening because it does this, or like, oh, this is okay because, and then my teacher would be like, and then he'd catch them and be like, you have to look at it, blah blah, and that's like something in my head swapped like that when the way you worded your sentence. So then I don't know. Anyway.
That makes sense. Yep.
Yeah. So fantastic piece, Anticular. Awesome work. Look forward to seeing more from you in the future. So our next piece is called No Biggie by Raydrob, who we have also never featured, but who is an amazing artist. And this piece is no exception. This piece features Rarity and a giant spider crab. I knew that one.
I did that one too.
Hey, well, probably because it looks like a spider.
Yeah.
It's a Japanese spider crab. They are huge. They're the biggest crabs in the world.
Yeah. Or it might be an Alaskan king crab. Marine biologist, come on.
No, stop being a marine biologist. You know what the best part is?
Marine biologist? Did you say?
I'm pretty sure, like, I'm 90% sure it's not a marine biologist, so it's going to make us sound even stupider. Anyways.
What's funny is you're correct in that it is a spider crab, because king crabs look a little bit different, and their legs are also a little different in how they're made. Because I eat them in Alaska. But also, if you look at the crab's face, it looks like a tarantula. It looks like a spider. So the artist was actually trying to spiderize this spider crab, if you will, to give it like kind of a more monstery like feel.
I just want to take a moment to look at Rarity's expression, because it's so like adorable. I guess would be the best conglomerate of words to use.
Is she taking a selfie?
Yeah, I think so.
Looks like it.
With a giant crab in the background. Yeah.
Pose and smile.
First, let me take a selfie.
It's so like cute in like this kind of dorky way that she's like, just posed like, yeah, there's a big crab behind me, no biggie.
Head
Like,
tilt smile.
Yeah. So cute.
I get a little bit of a Harlequin feeling from it, kind of that almost crazy, insane like female character, like
Yeah.
pose, smile. I have this giant weapon.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
It's the juxtaposition between like supposed to be like happy innocent moment and death crab behind you, giant weapon, BRB, just gonna kill it, then come back for combat.
Yeah.
That's definitely the Harlequin feeling I'm getting from that.
Yeah, like you have to be a psychopath to think that this is the situation for a selfie, you know? Yeah.
This kind of reminds me of like I get a War of the Worlds kind of feel from this.
Yeah, big time.
I saw that movie a while ago and I don't remember it.
I've listened to the radio broadcast. The radio broadcast was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Also, point of clarification: someone who studies crabs or crustaceans is a carcinologist.
Yeah, but I think isn't
So
a
we need one of
carcinologist
those.
part of marine biology though?
It probably is.
I guess
they
so,
all work
but
in
like
aquariums.
it's specifically crustaceans is carcinology.
Carcinology.
Interesting.
Well, thank you.
Anyways, enough about carcinogenics. And
So-
on to crabs.
So I also wanted to point out.
Is she magicking a sewing needle?
No, that's a.
It's half of a scissor.
Ah, yes. So it is.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I'm just gonna go out on a limb here and say that that's probably a reference to something. I feel like that's a safe bet, regardless of whether or not it's a scissor or a blade or something.
Well, let's think it's
It-
also safe to assume that none of us recognize that reference.
Yeah.
Yep.
So let's look at it as just an art piece in particular, because
Mhm.
I can tell clearly that it's half of a scissor. I think you guys can see that now. I've kind of pointed it out. But as it is, this is going back to what we were talking about in our last piece. It looks like I get this feeling that it looks like some kind of like crazy, almost demon
Battle
scissor. You know what I
scissors.
mean? It almost
Yeah.
brings up what is it? Adventure Time feelings, where it's like it's this blood demon scissor weapon thing.
It's
Just because of like
half
the
of it,
pointy
it's-
bits.
Half a pair of scissors and it's a reference to an anime called Kill la Kill.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. I haven't
Yeah.
seen it, but I've heard of it, and I heard it's
Sure.
good.
But it is scissors.
Yes, it is half a scissors.
Okay.
Yeah.
Half of a scissors, so a scissor.
It's a scissor.
This is.
This is, yeah.
I love
Just taking
how
out my sizz.
I love how magic is portrayed in this piece. Because it's very, very different from the show. It's very like wispy and like cloud-like and in a
That's
very like
definitely the buzzword that comes to my mind too. Wispy.
wispy.
Yeah.
It, like
Yeah.
almost ethereal kind of magic, which is really cool. And it kind of like wraps around this sizz.
Yeah, almost like the it's like infused with magic and it's leaking out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting.
I always enjoy seeing how people kind of interpret magic because it's not real and it is something completely made up by the show, and how they choose to display it is just completely up to the person. And just because a show shows it in one way doesn't necessarily mean you have to perfectly follow it. And something that we didn't necessarily talk about in Late Customers that I want to quickly go back to is he had like some sort of strange thing for my magic that looked a little bit like fire. People who are listening to the show can go back and see that in particular. But what that all kind of means is that everyone has their own interpretations of magic, and so it can lead to a lot of great creativity, such as in here where it gets that wispy feel.
Yeah. Which is definitely, I mean, I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like this. And in the late customer piece, it was very kind of cartoony, which kind of makes sense. But yeah, this is, I don't know, it almost reminds me of like a video game, for instance, or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyhow, I also wanted to talk about the background and the scenery in this piece because the lighting is really, really well done. I just love the warm colors that are used in the clouds, these purples and oranges and yellows and like splashes of color in there.
Yeah, it's a perfect example of purple being used as a warm color. 'Cause
Yeah.
It looks very much like a warm color in this piece.
Yeah. Should use this
it
piece
does.
for a purple episode.
What's it
Now
made then?
I know.
Rarity's face is adorable.
I know, right?
I do definitely a deer, a female deer, female horse. I definitely agree with Burned that there is something a little bit off about it though.
Yeah,
There's something
yeah.
beneath the surface.
Mhm.
Maybe it's just that angle of the head tilt.
Yeah.
It's a little bit
Something
uncanny
crazy
valley
there.
where it looks
She's-
a little too human.
Yeah, but no,
Maybe
no.
it's more the expression. There's just something about the expression itself that it's one of those things where it looks
It's-
happy.
Part the expression, but it's also part that it does look a bit human, because specifically just the style in which it's done, that it's a 3D style, and it's where we're not used to seeing ponies like in an overly 3D, and then it's a bit with like the eyebrows as well are kind of stray away from like show style and start entering a little bit more human eyebrows, and then especially where I see it is in the eyes, like the big round now globe like eyes with these really human eyelashes coming off of them, and then again with like this human smile. So for me it's like it's the tilt of the head, it's the expression, the smile, and then these eyes that are strikingly human that kind of create this almost uncanny feeling.
Yeah, but it really works with this piece because of the whole like dominance of the crab behind her, and like her just not really caring about that, and like I don't know, it just gives it this like almost creepy feel, but like I like that in this piece. Like it's really
I like
really
it
well
too.
done. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
All right, fine.
Wow, guys.
I will.
Yeah. Do it.
If I have time to blab about this piece, the artist did ask for a critique, and I think some of the things that are throwing us off on the character is one, like the head tilt. It's kind of that really awkward angle that's almost unnatural, and a lot of that looks like that because of how like kind of thick or broad the neck is. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, the neck's a bit
and again
thick.
that little it throws us off a little just because it's almost like the anatomy's not making sense. And it leads to that almost creepy factor, like in like a horror movie when when the character's head is like a full 180 or whatever.
Yeah. I like it though. I really like the tone of this piece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I enjoy the fact it makes me go, well, that's a bit strange.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing that I wanted to mention really quick before we wrap up with this piece is the hair. I really, really like how the hair is done in this piece, especially kind of her top mane, how it like goes very far up before it like takes a sharp turn down to the side. It's kind of almost anime-esque, in that like it's very pointed at the top. But I also enjoy the whole like painterly stroking of the hair.
Yeah. I really like the hair too, especially in the tail. But the hair on the head, her forehead almost seems kind of wonky, and the hair isn't really sitting on it.
She's a bit bald.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
a bit not connected to her skull. It's a bit awkward.
Yeah.
Maybe she's been pulling it out.
Oh my
or something.
goodness. No, enough of this. Enough of this.
Enough creepy factor.
Maybe a little
Okay,
bit more refining on the face. But,
So
or
we're gonna
head,
move on to our
skull.
last piece, which is called "Diplomacy Has Failed" by I Am Not. And I love this piece.
It's definitely again this aspect of creativity. We give the prompt of crab battle, but it's completely up to people how they want to interpret that. And obviously, the interpretation has included giant metal pony bells and some sort of cannon-like thing.
Yeah,
Sort of
and
last stand against the giant crabs.
the Cutie Art Crusaders. Scootaloo is manning the railgun or cannon, or I don't even know.
It's a crab howitzer.
Crabwitzer.
Yeah, it's some sort of strange, perhaps dystopian future. Almost a little bit steampunk, but more aimed towards futuristic. I know. I Am Not said that he was bored with the whole aspect of rarity in the giant crab because it's been done before.
Yeah.
And honestly, I would agree that when you've got rarity versus the giant crab, the more important one in the piece is the giant crab. There's always the classics, right? There's always the classics of having rarity in there, but man, when it comes down to the absurdness of these subject matter, the whole absurdity comes from that giant crab. So
Well,
I'm glad that people took it in a different direction and it wasn't just all Rarity.
I would argue though that like Rarity's choice of weapon also makes a big kind of impact too. Like Rarity herself is like, she's Rarity, she's always fabulous. But like the crab plus Rarity's weapon, especially if it's like a really creative weapon, it kind of adds to the whole absurdity of the situation.
But in this case, it's not even Rarity's. Maybe Rarity designed the weapon.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well,
maybe she's like within the wall.
Even weapon aside, the whole point of absurdity is something that would seem unnatural or, out of the ordinary or whatever you want to call it. So one part is the giant crab, but also part two, and why Rarity's so famous for it, is Rarity's not really a fighter. Rarity's not someone you see as a giant monster warrior person. She's the diva, the dainty one. So it's that juxtaposition of a very like female non-aggressive character, like warrior masculine fighting a character, whatever you want to put it, with now a weapon and now fighting a giant crab.
Yeah.
It's all sorts of absurdity. But it is really nice to see the switch up, whether it's the CMC or us, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
CMC, what?
Yeah. But going back to this piece, I wanted to touch on the precipitation because it plays a big part in like how the piece is put together. There's a lot of rain, like really, really heavy downpour, and you can see like reflections in the metal, in the like the stairs and the platform that they're sitting on. You can see the rain streaming down from like the roof of this bell. You can even see like on the crab itself, there's some water that's pooling up and then like flowing down and falling down. Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
that
is such a great touch.
Yeah, it's all these little touches that just make this piece fantastic.
And I mean, when on the topic of weather, you've also got the wind. The natural angle of the rain gives an impression of wind, and you can see it displayed. Not a tremendous amount throughout the piece besides the rain, but you've also got a little bit of the waves, and you've got Apple Bloom, who's got her coat just going crazy in the wind.
Yeah. Well, also Scootaloo's hair. And
that's a good,
not so much suitable.
Good eye.
By the way, if you zoom in on Scootaloo, her face is just like so fantastic. Like her expression, it's like just so determined.
It's not doing anything.
She's got quite the overbite there.
Yeah, Scootaloo to base. Like our weapons are useless.
I love the description. He was talking about the fact that he was using the CMC, and he said, it's just as they realize that some people, crabs, just can't be negotiated with. It sounds like some sort of like tagline for a movie.
Yeah. Rob Schneider is the giant crab.
No, it's not a Rob Schneider. Rob Schneider is the crab.
The Stabler.
No, I meant like an action movie, like some sort of like deep epic voice, like some crabs just can't be negotiated with. Summer 2014.
Cute sunglasses. And,
something I have to give props to I Am Not For is when he uploads his stuff, he allows the preview to be huge, whereas a lot of people don't do that. You have to download it. And that makes that makes me very happy.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice.
Because I can look at it without having to download it.
Yeah. You mentioned the waves before, Roboplasma, and I wanted to mention how like really well done they are, especially because there is like this wind factor and stuff. So you would see like rolling waves and like really intermittent waves. And so you kind of get that feeling here. Plus you get, I don't know if it's really an atmospheric perspective or just like a shift in values in the background. But you kind of get like this ominous kind of falling off of the ocean. It's not like a horizon because it doesn't go all the way out, but because it's precipitating so much, and I'm assuming that there's clouds and stuff in the background and whatnot.
And fog and stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
You get a very atmospheric feeling from it. It's a very good point.
Yeah.
So
Very
it's the feeling
atmospheric.
that it's far.
Yeah.
So many spheres of Atmo.
Oh, yeah. I am very serious.
Something cool that I wanted to point out and make sure we covered it is how well done the 3D is in this, the kind of the perspective of the environment that's created. So this wall, stairs, the gun, and things like that. And I was not actually mentioned to me that how he created that is he actually created them using a 3D program. He used them creating a 3D interface. So he 3D modeled the background that is kind of the stairs and the what is it, the railing there, little turrets or whatever they're called, castle-like things, and then the structure around the bell, and then the bottom of the howitzer, and I believe the howitzer itself. So it was actually perfect for the angle that he wanted for his piece, and then he took that and then painted over it, and then used it and then gave it like proper lighting and shadow from there. So he just got all of the perfect angles from using that as a tool, which I thought was really awesome and also intelligent.
Yeah,
it was really cool to find that out and to know that.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like, I don't know, some people might say that that's cheating by using like a 3D software to get the perspective right. But like, if you have the tool and it's available, like, use it and like use it to your advantage, and then like make other parts of your art like really, really good. And I think I Am Not did a fantastic job with that in this piece.
Really glad that you brought that up, because it's actually something that I talked to one of my art teachers about, and a point that he told me was that especially professional artists, like any artist who matters or is a professional, no one cares how you get your picture or whatever to look good, or like get it onto your canvas or your digital whatever you're doing. Like, no one cares how you got it there. It just matters that in your final product actually does look good and look professional. So like, this is an awesome example where like kind of like the point where you brought up where it doesn't matter because it looks amazing, you know?
Yeah.
Anyone who thinks that creative references is cheating is an idiot. I'm sorry. Like,
either that or not an artist.
Or they're not
learning.
They're not educated enough about it. That's dumb.
Yeah.
Also, one last thing, because we're about to close up here for the art. This piece, 16 by 9. Last piece, also 16 by 9. Oh, yeah!
It's true. This is a wallpaper on my computer right now, so.
Now, Anticular Pony, let's have a little chat here, bud. Now, you might not have been, I don't know how long you've been a fan, but maybe if you're new around here, you haven't quite understood the whole obsession that I have. But you almost made it 16 by 9. And I'm actually going to check really quick, lest I feel like an idiot. But yeah, guys, 16 by 9, do it. It's great wallpaper.
Digital conformalism.
You're so good. We want to put it as a background. Why not? Or, if you don't want to do that, then just do what Mystic Alpha does and make another version.
Oh, you know what you should do? You should black bar it.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
So anyhow, we're going to wrap up the art section here. Thank you guys so much for sending all this amazing crab art in, especially those guys that we've featured here. And remember that you can stick around after we kind of wrap up the show for 4 more pieces that we wanted to just kind of give a quick shout out to and talk about for a couple of minutes a piece. So once again, thank you guys. These are amazing.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff.
So
Question?
much crab art.
Question time?
Question time?
Questions.
Okay, so we have a semi-relevant question here today. With today's theme of fighting, in brackets giant crabs, will quote-unquote adult themes such as horror, dark, gore, destruction, etc. ever be featured on your show, or will it stay as a kid-friendly as it is at the moment? Paraphrased from a question sent in by Shadow Scoundrel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this question was phrased a bit differently, but the gist of it was, are we ever going to do darker themes, I guess more mature themes without the whole conventional mature, what people think that means, but like, darker, gorier without actually going, that kind of stuff. And I think I can give a pretty good answer to this, but you guys can all have your own say as well. One of the things that we had walking into this show was we wanted to make it accessible to a lot of people, to anyone really, to be able to walk in and learn about art. That's why we try to put things in simpler terms. It's why, we always are very casual about it and provide a very entertaining atmosphere, because we want it to be inclusive for everyone. And part of that is being inclusive to younger audiences as well. it was a very conscious decision early on that we would not do certain things. For example, you guys have probably noticed, but we don't swear on this show.
We'll try not to.
Right.
But-
So we try not to, and we cut it out if we do. If any of you know us in real life, you know that we swear quite a bit because we're adults and we do that. But we make conscious decisions on this show to give it a certain atmosphere, and part of it is to make it kid friendly. Now, on the topic of darker themes, it's hard to say because it's hard to draw the line between what we're going to do and what we're not. It's easy just to say don't swear, right? Because that's a pretty hard line. But when it comes to actual themes, that's a bit more difficult. I know that when it comes to gore, when it comes to horror, that's something that I don't necessarily feel would often be relevant and appropriate for all audiences. But it's not necessarily something that we'll just cut off, because I feel like those things are much more subjective than perhaps swearing or, what other people might think. Other topics such as mature art, such as pornography, And yes, I just said the word pornography, and that is a PG-13 word. So there's harder lines like with pornography and with swearing. Very firm lines that we can do, but I feel like it's more vague with darker pieces. But it's on a case by case basis, I guess.
Yeah, I feel like we could go into like creepier kind of art. I don't really enjoy going into like gore or horror art, especially anything like with a lot of blood or stuff like that in it. Just because I don't know, I haven't really found a piece where that kind of theme is really necessary. But I do enjoy like artistic spins on like creepy themes or something like in the piece No Biggie today. Like Rarity looked rather creepy, and I like that in a piece. It's not like over the top, but it's just something that is fairly artistic. But again, it depends piece by piece. So
I will agree with that second point that you made, where like I enjoy looking at sort of artistic variations of creepy sort of thing, but I also don't mind sort of the horror type genre as well. It's just it's really, really hard to do that well. So like if I see something that is a really well done sort of horror genre artwork, I really do like it because it's really hard to get that done properly. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't say it's appropriate for our show, but personally I like it. Like I personally do like some sort of adult content type art.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think when you get to the extremes, that's where it really is like it's easier for us to say yes or no to. When you're talking about things like blood and gore, right? When you think about gore, then it's no. Like that's a hard no from us, right? But we've never looked at a piece that has blood in it and specifically put it aside because it has blood in it.
Right.
Obviously the amount matters.
Yeah.
But we featured a couple pieces with a little bit of blood in it, and I don't think that that's a big deal. So I guess it's a personal call from us. But there's stuff like that where like if you're talking about horror, right? That's an extreme, and so it's almost always a firm no from that. But then you get into like the less extreme side, and you get like kind of creepier pieces or menacing pieces or things like that. We featured a couple today. I think those are fine, and those are more again subjective.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with the points you guys were saying. And like there's that line, we have to draw it, and we're gonna stick to it, like obviously. But for like darker art, there's obviously more things that are kind of darker and mature that I'm curious and or interested to feature. Specifically, there's a piece, I can't remember the name of it and or the artist. I think it might be Pigfish.
Yes, yeah.
But
the piece
if
that
you
was
guys know the Traveling Pony
Museum.
Museum, I'm sure a lot of fans out there have seen this piece either on the internet or even featured in the Traveling Pony Museum. And it's a piece with the Cutie Art Crusaders, and it's very off-putting in how kind of dark and style it is. But it's the three of them, and it has each of them showing their special talent. But in a way where like Sweetie Belle has like a light bulb in her mouth, and what is it? Scootaloo's face is like half there, and there's like she's like breathing fire or something. And there's like targets in the background to kind of give this Daredevil theme, and then yeah, I don't know. Each of the characters is kind of really, I don't know, portrayed in a darker manner in a really interesting style. But it's still it's appropriate for ages. It's just it's a much more mature kind of a darker setting thing. I wish I had the piece to put on the screen, but I can't remember the name.
Well,
of it.
I think that if we were to feature something like that, because like we'll feature some a little bit of creepy or a little bit of like darker themes or whatever. But if we have a piece that like we think might be off-putting to the audience, we'll mention it before we actually display the piece, because like you guys should know that, you know.
Yes, and I think with all of this, because you know, the answer to your question is no. We will try. We're staying kid friendly because we want it to be accessible. Obviously, everything's on a case by case basis, but generally speaking, we want to keep it kid friendly because we want to make it accessible to as many people as possible. But I think what people should take away from this also is that I don't necessarily think that this makes any of them less legitimate. It just happens to not fit our show. There's a lot of pieces like that out there, whether it be just the style of how they do the art or the subject matter, such as gore or pornography or whatever. It doesn't make them non-legitimate art pieces just because they're not on our show. It just happens to not fit our criteria, and one of our criteria is to be kid friendly.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, that should answer a couple questions.
Yeah. So thank you for that question. Atmo, you want to run through the plugs like really, really rapid fire?
I can do that. Okay, so we have a DeviantArt page, which is cuteartcrusaders.deviantart.com. Go there for crown fab stuff. We also have a YouTube, no we don't, yes we do, YouTube account, Cutie Art Crusaders on YouTube. We also have a Facebook page, which is Cutie Art Crusaders on Facebook, and Twitter, which is @CutieArtCrusade. Oh, and email, which is cuteartcrusaders.gmail.com.
Yep. So next week we have something special planned, or the start of something special planned.
We got more than something special planned, let me tell you, bud.
Yeah.
So, our episode 100's coming up, isn't it, guys? In 7 weeks. Now, in 7 weeks, we have episode 100. That's almost our 2-year anniversary, where we have been doing crazy art featuring about ponies. So, we've got 6 weeks in between. 6 weeks before we do our 100th episode about pony art. Ponies.
Why does that? Yeah.
6 ponies. Main 6?
Oh my God.
Could be something like that, yes.
So, announcing today, because we wanted to keep it a secret until after this was done, we are starting to have the next 7 weeks are planned out. So if you guys want to know the themes, they'll be all open. But basically, over the next 6 weeks, we will be finally getting to the main 6 because we wanted to knock those out before episode 100, and it was perfect timing. So all of them, Applejack, Fluttershy, Rainbow Dash, Pinky, Twilight, and Rarity, in that order if you were paying attention, those will be our episodes for the next 6 weeks, and then the 7th week will be our 100th episode special. And on top of that, as something even more special, because this entire couple months is going to be super special, I need a thesaurus now, we're also going to have one super special secret guest on each week.
Yes.
So, yeah, look forward to that. We've got the main 6 coming up in the next 6 weeks, and each week we will have our own guest. I'm sure you guys
am I the guest?
Yes, you're the guest.
You are the
every
guest.
single week. So, yeah, I hope you guys... We're going to keep the guests a secret. We kept this other thing a secret, but we'll keep the guests a secret until the episode, so you guys will find out during the episode. But we hope you guys enjoy what we got planned for you. We figured it would be best to knock out the main 6 before we hit episode 100, because episode 100 is a big milestone. And we've always been talking the talk, and we haven't walked the walk of actually featuring the main 6. So if you have a piece about any of your favorite main 6 ponies that you think we must have in there, then you better send it to us, because we're going to be featuring them right now.
Yep. So first up is Applejack once again. So, yeah.
All right. Well, that's everything for this week. So thank you guys for watching. Whether or not you guys are on the live stream or on YouTube, or you sent in a fan crab piece, we love you all the same. Make sure to stick around if you want to watch a couple of honorable mentions. But other than that, my name is Rainbow Plasma.
I'm Flutterguy317.
Atmo Spark.
And we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Hello and welcome to the extra bit, the honorable mentions for our re-fan crabbiting episode that you guys just watched. Thanks for sticking around and listening to us ramble on a little bit more about pieces, but we got so many in that there was a couple extras that we wanted to shout out. So without further ado, let's get right into them with our first piece.
So our first piece is called The Final Assault by Rain Gear, who we've been featuring quite a bit lately, and who is an awesome artist. And this piece features Rarity on top of a rock with a sword, battling crabs on this really lava-esque, like, cool background thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really, I think this piece does a lot of really cool things individually, and Rain Gear has always been really great at doing backgrounds, I find. And when you look, especially in my mind, what sticks out to be the best part of this piece is the back kind of left part of it, where that king crab is in the background, kind of silhouetted with all the crabs coming towards this rock, and the lava bursting out and everything like that. I love the kind of composition on that left side. It's really nice.
I love the fact that he's got a little crown on his head.
Yeah, teeny little crab crown.
Yeah. Something that I really enjoy in Rain Gear's pieces is that he uses like little touches of very vibrant colors. So like in this piece, you get these blue crystals on this rock. And those kind of complement Rarity's eye and also her magic color. And I don't know, it just like kind of gives these little crystals a popping thing. And it's not really a focus of the piece, but it's, you know, it's just something that gives it kind of a little bit of extra. It's nice.
Yeah. It's got quite a bit of value shift in here. We've got really bright in the middle and really dark in the background, which leads to some interesting contrast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I do like the lighting in this piece, especially how like there's this kind of big shining beam of light that's illuminating Rarity, and everything else is very dark, not really desaturated, but there's a large value shift there.
Yeah. I like the bright value on like Rarity and stuff because it does make her like come forward and makes it look like the focus, but I don't like how the value of like the everything in the foreground and all the mountains in the background and then the clouds in the sky are all kind of the same, because it makes them all kind of blend together and seem like they're on the exact same plane, and it makes everything feel very flat.
There's no snakes on that plane.
No, there's crabs.
Yeah. Crabs
on the plane.
Crabs
It's the crab plane, okay?
It's a
plane shaped like a crab.
Crabs on my plane.
And your crane.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff that's really detailed in this piece, and again, I think that's kind of where Rain Gear shines is kind of the atmosphere that he provides. When you're looking at all the lava bursts, I think there's one in particular right on the right side of that cresting rock there. It's just so, I don't know. It looks like a realistic lava or realistic fire, and it's really nice.
He does do that really well, like the sort of the highlights, like the fire and the lava and her magic. Her magic is great.
Her magic and her sword is really, really well done.
I think perhaps giving a bit of critique, because he asked for a little bit of critique. I think Rain Gear does a great job at backgrounds and larger scenes, and once he starts working a little bit more on his characters, there's a little bit of a strange feeling to Rarity's face, and I can't quite place it. I'm not good enough of a critique to kind of place it exactly, but there's a little bit of something there. And it's not even, I think her hair is done really well as well. It's just there's something about the face that I'm not quite sure what it is.
For me, it's two things. It's that the eye is at an odd place on the head, and then it's the jaw seems a bit low and almost disjuncted, I guess. And and I'm not used to the 3D shading, because I mean... I respect him in the fact that he's using a unique angle and he's putting in a unique light, like overhead, top-down lighting, and then trying to make it look very realistic. And did a really awesome job in like places by the body, and even in the face, he did like it looks like realistic shading. But actually gonna make this a little bit bigger. Actually, like in a small resolution, it's a little odd, but in a larger resolution, it's actually.
Yeah, it's not.
It's
so
rather good, actually.
But there is something to be said about the differences in sizes, though, because it's going to be viewed in many different ways.
The major thing, I think, is just almost the placing of like the eye specifically. It almost feels a little low to me. But and then the ear, because like how I know pony anatomy is supposed to work is like the ear is always at like the 3/4 mark, and it's at a certain angle from the eye, where the ear is placed directly above Rarity's eye, and then it's creating kind of this off feeling where it's like, why is her ear like above?
Anatomy's hard, bro.
Yeah. Just really quickly, before we wrap up this piece, because we do have to move on. I do like a lot of things about Rarity in this piece. I like how her hair is done, and I like how her body is done, especially in that pose. And also the whole cape thing is done really well. Where it's tied around her neck, and also where it's flowing behind her. So Ranger definitely does have like a lot of really good things about his characters and his poses and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. So we're gonna move on to our next piece, which is called "Friendship of the Crablossus." Yeah. By Riolo132.
Now, I fought for this one to have at least a mention because I thought that while perhaps as a whole it didn't turn out as well as like the 4 or 5 that we featured before, I think that there is not only a tremendous amount of potential, but it's really interesting to see a piece that uses a lot of 3D elements come out and look so painterly and look so complete as a 2D piece. A lot of the times, the models of ponies, they don't transition very well. It needs a lot of tweaking in order for it to look good. The uncanny valley is ripe in 3D animation when it comes to ponies. But this one is done really interestingly, and it's in a way that I have no idea what is a 3D model and what isn't. I can look at perhaps the grass and say, oh, that's modeled in 3D maybe, but Rarity kind of looks like it is, but it could not be, and the sword maybe not, and the crab in the background, is that done in 3D? So it was, and there's such a heavy amount of blur too that it kind of flattens the piece in a way and makes it look more 2D, and so there's a lot of really interesting aspects, and I don't often see 3D work done so well and put in such a way that makes it stand out as something that we would want to feature on our show. And I think we should be rewarding people who are willing to do a little bit of experimentation as well.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. This artist used both Blender and Krita, which is it's kind of like a drawing tool that's part of the KDE desktop environment / library tools and stuff like that, which I'm guessing that Riolo132 uses Linux, because those tools are mostly available on Linux. So awesome if you are. But it's also interesting because we don't really see that much art that's done in some program other than like Photoshop or GIMP or like Psy or whatever. But this is kind of interesting because I'm guessing that he did a bunch of modeling in Blender, and then he took that picture and he kind of painted over it and added certain details to it and stuff.
Yeah, there's manipulation. There's a texture around the entire piece that kind of it gives a very slight vignette to it. It fades in from the corners, and there's these interesting light bits in the back that, like, what is that scenario? And I think the mountains are done very well, and such detail in the grass too. Like, if that is 3D modeled, holy cow. Like, that's pretty cool. I mean, yes, it's gray, but that's interesting in its own right.
Yeah. Well, the whole shift in value too is kind of interesting in this piece, and also like the whole defocusing of the background and the crab kind of give it a menacing feel to it.
Yeah. Certain things, like the reason why the crab might be so dark and the reason why everything might be so blurry is because the models didn't come out very well, and they would look kind of if you kind of looked at them individually. But I think constraints breeds creativity, and this is obviously a product of that, where they might have had a constraint and said, well, this doesn't look very good, or it's better if I do this or that. And then you have to be creative with it. How am I going to make this work? And there you go. You got a piece like this.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely fantastic.
My 2 cents, I really like the grass, and I like the value. Like, the grass is great, but I don't really care for the silhouette of the crab. I feel like there's something that could be done more there. And, like, the choice of making him pure black and it's clearly painted does make him really stand out and make him look like a silhouette and menacing, but he's sort of kind of, I don't know, it's almost like a cutout of the piece.
Yeah, I personally feel like it shouldn't be a silhouette. Like, there should be a little bit of light on it and
Yeah, I
be a
feel like-
little bit coloured.
There's an artistic choice that the artist can definitely make, and to make the crab darker and seem ominous, but not making him pure black.
Yeah, maybe giving him a little bit of detail, and just because like the mountains are blurred and the crab's blurred at the same kind of
And
depth.
I can tell that the edges of like the crab and stuff are painted, and like there's some overlap and stuff and strokes there, and like light wrapping around it, and then it makes it seem disjunct from the like field of depth and I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
But anyhow, fantastic piece. We're going to move on to our next piece, which is called Crab Battle Ship by DualShock, which is really creative. And this is a vector that
it is.
DualShock created, which is basically Battleship. And it looks like it's Rarity versus Giant Crab playing Battleship,
Yeah,
which is one of the most clever weapons that I've seen.
it's a combination of being really, really creative and clever and great detail with the medium that he's using, which is vector, which is not something that is easily done. These complex subjects are not easily done. So I was really impressed by this one. And when I was saying earlier in the episode that a lot of people are very creative with this one, this is the thing that came to mind because it was so different. And people took that attitude of, oh, crab battle, and then turned it on its head completely.
Yeah. Yeah, it's also interesting because he used us in this piece as well, and also late customer and Otaku AP and Mahauer.
And Mahauer.
And
of course.
Silver. So we're kind of like the battleships, I guess. And
Yeah.
poor Otaku AP and late customer have already been sunk, it looks like.
Already died, but they've
I
probably
like how
been
they're
stuck by each
sunk.
other.
and then I'm surrounded by parts in which red team has tried to hit. Like,
Yeah.
why is everyone trying to come forward?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of great references. I love the googly eyes that we have.
Yeah.
That's great. But even
Also,
yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say also, I'm the only pony piece that's looking at the camera.
Yeah, you are.
Because like there's all the little spots like gush gush like all around, and I'm just like, oh my god.
I was like saying,
Everyone's looking. Oh, Mahau's is looking up at nothing, but Flutter Guy
wait.
and Rainbow Plasma looking at each other. Me and Silver looking at each other.
Yeah,
Aw,
look at
it's
this.
the ship.
Otaku and Scribbles
Otaku
looking
and
at
Dave
each other.
shipping, looking at each other.
What are you trying to insinuate, Duel?
He's
I also
shipping
like the way
us.
that he's separated the blue and red teams. Like the blue team is all sort of cool color ponies, and the red team is all the warm color ponies.
Yeah.
Yeah, there
That's really
seems to be that aspect of it too, and there's also great just detail when it comes to the vector side of things. For those of you who haven't really done it before, this is pretty up there in terms of details when it comes to vectors. You know, I'm really impressed, and it's even got your vector in the background there, Flutter Guy. Your
Yeah.
angry Rarity.
Yeah.
Evil Rarity.
I don't know if that's my vector or if he created a replica of it. But yeah, I did a whole evil series of vectors with that evil face from Twilight in the wedding, and that's one of them.
Like 2 years ago. Time
Yeah.
flies.
Good lord, that was a while ago.
It's a good vector of a crab too. I'm impressed.
Yeah.
I'd like to see
Yeah.
an individual. I'd like to see the individual file for that because I think that would be really interesting to see.
Yeah. Also, something that's interesting is that Battleship is owned by Hasbro. So
Hey, there
ponies
you go.
and Battleship, Hasbro, make it so. Create a Battleship
Make
with My
it
Little
so.
Pony.
I'd love to see how this game is played too, because the thing about Battleship is that there are multiple pegs per ship, right? Whereas this one is just kind of like go until you hit 4 of them.
Yeah.
Seems much more random.
Burns gonna get killed on his last try, on his next turn.
I don't know though. Like,
But they have no idea. We have no idea of knowing that he was there.
yeah,
True.
except for the fact that like both screens are facing us.
I do love the fact. I'm glad you pointed out that you were looking at the camera burn because I hadn't even thought about that. But that's great. It's kind of like you're like, help me.
Yeah, I have the widest people. Oh, God.
That's great.
I love how like simplistic this is, and yet how like almost implied emotions are in each character. Like Burns like like I'm gonna get hit, and like the rest of us are like, well,
You're doing our own thing. And Mahauer's almost like doing like he's not even paying attention, whistling like, oh, nothing to see here.
yeah.
Yeah, it's got a lot of personality in it, and you don't have to have overt stuff to show personality in pieces.
I think
I'll be interested to see who's actually playing these games, because the blue team, so the red team attacking blue team is very methodical about it, whereas the red team is kind of just whatever, shoot wherever.
Wherever burned is.
Why,
Yeah.
Crab? Why do you hate me? My only critique I think I have for this piece is if you look at the lines that the board we're on if you look at the direction and angle they're at, they get smaller as they move forward. They're not parallel. And that's kind of reverse where what perspective does, where they would get smaller as they travel back. And that's the only real thing I see, but it looks fine. Like kind of being backwards. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it still looks good.
Looks fine.
Interesting.
Yeah, very, very cool concept. Thank you, DualShock.
Love that concept.
All right, so our last piece that we're going to feature in our kind of honorable mentions section is called Rarity vs. Giant Crab Battle of the Century by Nocturnal Meteor, who has this fantastic cartoony style, almost like Ren and Stimpy-esque, / Looney Tunes-esque, / like any old school, like really out there cartoony style.
This is classic over-the-top cartoon, and I love it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just Rarity going nuts. Look at that giant tongue.
Yeah, there's some sort of strange giant tongue. Isn't this kind of like Ren and Stimpy-ish?
Yeah, Ren and Stimpy.
Yeah.
I didn't really watch too much of that show. I wasn't a big fan, but
Yeah.
Well, the Nocturnal Meteor does a lot of this type of style.
Yeah.
it's unfair to kind of categorize it as Ren and Stimpy because it is very much his style.
Yeah.
Like all the other stuff is like this.
Yeah. I love the over the top expression that Rarity has on her face, because her tongue is getting kind of chomped on by a crab. So, although I mean, to be fair, I think she's more in pain that her glorious mane is being messed up by the crab. But tail rather.
I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah.
Then again, that's how I kind of feel about all of Nocturnal Meteor's pieces. Just kind of like I don't know what's going on here.
That's why it's great, because I definitely feel like he draws inspiration from, say, Ren or Stimpy or whatever, like animated or cartoon thing that he either knows or has taken influence of or has seen. But he constantly pushes it to the next level. Like, we featured his work before in our fan episode, I believe, one of our fan episodes. And one of the quotes that I believe I mentioned from him is that every time he tries to make an expression, he tries to push it farther and farther every single time, to where, like, every single time he makes anything cartoony or his own work, he always pushes himself. And he's always especially pushing himself to be more expressive or take things to, beyond the extreme or beyond the norm, if you will. So, like, he does a fantastic job in this. I mean, everything from making the tongue a giant thing, like, protruding out to the huge, like, abstraction of Rarity's face. You know what I mean?
Molars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
where
know.
it's great. And there's a lot of things to where we can tie in with expression or with abstract expression or whatever you want,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love like the fact that she's got this like I'm assuming that they're kind of tears, just like flinging out. Or no, those
That's
are
her
like those are
eyelashes.
her eyelashes. Yeah.
Yeah. Just even more crazy.
Yeah. So yeah, you know how we were talking about creepy with the with that question.
Yeah, I never know how to feel about these kind of pieces. And I guess, again, kind of relating it back to Ren and Stimpy, and in a little bit of a way, I guess the hot diggity demon stuff, but that's not really safe for a show. But yeah, like I've never really known how to feel about it because it always makes me go like, ugh. But like that's kind of the point in a way. So
Yeah, I mean, I love his way over the top cartoony stuff. It's all fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like it's meant to be over the top, and like if it wasn't so over the top, then it might be kind of off-putting. But because it is like that is kind of the context of the art, and so it's like, okay, this is over the top, so it's supposed to be off-putting, so it's not going to be.
It's not trying to lie to itself, or it's not trying to lie to anyone. Like, it is.
It's not trying to take itself
specifically-
seriously either.
It is done this way for a reason,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Also, that crab is like the eye stalks, or his eyes are just so huge out of the eye.
The most normal looking thing in this piece is the crab.
Yeah,
really. His body is almost a perfect, like, good oval. Like, what's going on here? It's not supposed to look normal.
He almost looks like one of those Maryland crab hats that we saw at BronyCon last year. Oh my gosh. someone draw Rarity wearing a Maryland crab hat. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you to everyone, not just these people that we featured here, not just the 9 that we featured here, but everyone who sent in ones. There were a lot of really fantastic creative pieces and well-done pieces, and you know, part of this is kind of helping you practice and you know, prompts, whether that be Artist Training Ground from Equestria Daily or stuff that we're doing here. It's always good to kind of get in on it, and so thanks for sending it in, and we really appreciate all of that.
Yeah.
And that's it for this little extra bit. So
Yeah, like, I mean, just... Sorry.
no, go ahead.
No, yeah.
I was just saying quickly on that, we've had a lot of the crab battle pieces that were sent in to us. A lot of the descriptions in it were saying, I had no idea what to draw, and I was kind of in a slump, and then I saw this thing by the Cutie Art Crusaders, and I drew this. So that's awesome.
Right.
You should go out and do that sort of thing. Like, just find something that's like completely random and just draw that.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the point.
Yeah. Yeah,
Good
if you're
stimulus.
if you're ever getting into an art slump, like you can try and find groups or like themes or art contests or whatever that, like, you know, MLP Drawing School does something like that, or Artist Training Ground, or just like pick the most random thing and just make a piece, and then who knows, like maybe other people will make pieces similar to that, like, you know, Rarity fighting a giant crab, for instance, and then who knows, maybe that theme will end up on our show.
Yeah.
Or like, go outside and where there's like
3
a group of people,
times.
just look at someone doing something silly and then just draw that. Like, if there's a cat chasing a pigeon or a squirrel, do that.
I think what we can take away from this in general, which is a great point that Atmos Park just brought up, is that after watching this podcast, you should probably go outside. I think we should all go outside because it's beautiful out today. And
It
speaking
actually
of
is really
beautiful,
quite nice
So
outside today.
Dark outside.
speaking of beautiful, you're all beautiful.
Oh.
I love you.
No.
And that's it for this little extra segment. So thanks for sticking around for the extra stuff. My name is Rainbow Plasma.
I'm burned.
I'm Flutterguy 317.
Atmos Park.
And we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.